Last night I opted to watch Starship Troopers, the third of the great Paul Verhoeven sci-fi trilogy that began with RoboCop in 1987 and Total Recall, which was either 1990 or 91, and this one, Starship Troopers, the adaptation of the classic sci-fi novel by Robert Heinlein, which Starship Troopers came out, I believe, in '97. So that was Paul Verhoeven's American sci-fi schlock period. You know, self-aware schlock. Uh, uh, it's very enjoyable. Extremely exploitative, very bloody, very violent, and lots of social commentary. Although also lots of just very campy sort of material so it's sort of he's got something going on for your mind, but there's also just lots of really stuff that engages you on a very dumb base but still fun kind of level. Starship Troopers, this is not a comprehensive review. There's a lot of interesting things that could be said about both the movie and the book. The movie and the book are really of one piece. There's a lot has been said about how the movie takes a radically different turn, or takes a radically different perspective on the material, and it does take a different perspective. There is more of an ironic perspective on it all, but they both really depict the same kind of society, the same kind of war culture, this sort of ethos of the future. This, he had to use the word fascism, but something like that. This future world in which, in order to become a citizen, you have to volunteer for military service, and you have to end up. In this case, there's a huge galactic war on with an enemy that's only referred to as the bugs, and so you have to not only join up in the military, and the military is very very harsh. It's much easier to get washed out in this kind of this type of military, the military of the future that's depicted in Starship Troopers, both in Heinlein's book and in the movie. It's tougher. It's no holds barred. They can do whatever they want to you. There's no lawsuits if your feelings get hurt by something the drill instructor says or anything like that. So it's hardcore. Now, what I wanted to focus in on, though, what really struck me last night as I was watching this movie again, and I don't think this is not so much pertaining to the original novel by Robert Heinlein, but it struck me that you had this presentation of what was, if you read between the lines, probably a false flag attack. And that was that takes place about a third of the way into the movie, when our young hero he's going through boot camp, and he's questioning whether he's got what it takes to be a galactic marine, or whatever it is they call themselves. I can't remember the name of the title, the exact title of the army that they serve, the military, the future Earth military forces. But there's suddenly a strike against Earth, and supposedly the official story. You gotta love that phrase, the official story. The official story is that the bugs did it. They have a way of launching these asteroids at Earth and this time they timed it so that they were able to launch this this asteroid into or towards the orbit of Earth, and it destroyed the entire city of Buenos Aires, which is where Johnny Rico, the hero, is from. And there are a couple of things that are done in the movie. Of course, this is Paul Verhoeven, so in his schlock sci-fi phase, with all the satirical trappings that are so uniquely Verhoevian. In RoboCop, you had the commercials and the news broadcasts and the callous sort of attitude they had towards all of the terrible violence that was going on. And here it's very similar. There's so much carnage, there's so much bloodshed, there's so much gore, and but they have these recruitment newsreel recruitment videos that are shown that kind of, in a way, harken back to the Why We Fight, the World War II era propaganda, which was actually Frank Capra, who I think did a lot of that, was in charge of a lot of those, the same director of It's a Wonderful Life, who is responsible for a lot of those Why We Fight newsreel movies. But here they've got a bunch of those, and it's quite humorous. It's openly militaristic, it's openly fascistic. The kind of uniforms everybody's wearing, and how they turn to the camera, and everybody's really good looking. It's got this kind of it's not totally Nazi aesthetic, but there are a lot of really very Aryan looking guys and girls with square jaws. The guys have square jaws, and the girls are very beautiful, and so it's very shameless and open, like self-consciously shameless in appealing in all of these ways. But one of they kind of hide this. There's something that's a little bit hidden between the lines, as I was trying to say, and that is the notion that we're not being told the full truth of this war. That, in fact, the war, and I remember Heinlein says this in his book, because Heinlein was, he was a social Darwinist, essentially. I think in a lot of ways, as a philosopher, as a thinker, he was from a military background, and of course he was also he also started the hippie movement with "Stranger in a Strange Land," so he was also into free love, and he was a peculiar thinker, lots of seemingly divergent philosophies. I guess they don't necessarily diverge, or they don't necessarily contradict each other. Free love and extreme militarism. But anyway, he says at one point, it doesn't really matter what he has his narrator say. It doesn't really matter whether we started the war or the bugs started the war. The fact is, we both want the same real estate. I remember him using the term real estate. So they're both expansive civilizations. Of course, the bugs are just this horrific, hive mind kind of creature. They're like the Borg in Star Trek, except less human. The Borg are still humanoid in form, just sort of cyberpunk-looking humanoids. But the bugs are bugs, and in the movie they're like these hideous sorts of. Some of them look like grasshoppers. Some of them are, like big locusts. Some of them are, I don't even know how to describe, like the more, like the there's a hierarchy. There's like the worker bugs, and then there's the brain bug, and it looks different. It's got more of a solid kind of exoskeleton sort of a body. But anyway, it's implied at one point that this was there needn't be this war at all. That these two groups, these two civilizations, could just stay out of each other's way, and that in fact, it's suggested that the people in charge of Earth, the political elite, have fomented this war. They've started it. They were the ones who in fact took this kind of belligerent action to ignite a war with the bugs, because they wanted to use, because essentially it was like they wanted to use the armed forces as cannon fodder to in order to eventually fight and exterminate this other race, in order to fuel their expansionist, imperialist ambitions. And so there's this critique. It's hidden. It's not really hidden that deep, though. You don't really have to look that hard for it. Although it is interestingly done the way Paul Verhoeven films the movie, because on the one hand it's like this war movie, this adventure movie with a lot of blood and gore, and there's the people dying left and right in horrible ways, and just it's this harrowing kind of future war against this vicious enemy. And so you in those kind of scenes you root on the grunts, the the people who have signed up for all of this. After all, in this future, this is the military is all strictly voluntary. They don't make anybody go who doesn't want to. But it's like, if you want to be a civil, if you want to qualify as a civilian and get all of the privileges that a civilian gets, that you have to qualify it through military service. So anyway, the bugs supposedly strike Buenos Aires, and Johnny, as he's calling his parents, because he's about to wash out, he's about to go home, and they look around and say, "Boy, it's gotten kind of dark all of a sudden." And then he finds out a few minutes later from a female cadet. She tells him, "The bugs whacked us, Johnny," and it turns out they've just destroyed. They just wiped out Buenos Aires and a bunch of other places on Earth. But you don't really have to look that hard, even though it's never directly stated. You don't have to look that hard to for it to occur to you that maybe the bugs didn't do this at all. That maybe this might have been a false flag, because it certainly got the war ignited. It gave more and more people motivation to join up, and fueled the military-industrial complex. And this was all 4 years before what? 4 years before 9/11, right? Exactly. So that's what I find kind of extraordinary about this movie. It was very prescient in that regard. It really predicted the war on terror era of the early to mid aughts. Very like with frightening prescience, even though it's set in the future and it's schlocky sci-fi and it's highly satirical and all of that. There's all these other things that would keep certain people from taking it seriously, but I do know that Paul Verhoeven is skilled filmmaker, and that even when he makes stuff like this that is on one level, schlocky, exploitative, grindhouse cinema, on the other, there's another side to it that has greater intelligence. The same was true of RoboCop. Same is true of Total Recall. So that was something I just wanted to talk about today, because it struck me as I rewatched the movie. It struck me in a way that hadn't ever struck me before. It certainly didn't strike me at the time I saw it back in 1997, because that was before the notion of false flag was really even. I mean, it was out there. People knew about the principle or the notion of a false flag, but way before, or 4 years prior to what was probably the biggest false flag in I don't know, a long time. Let's just say the most significant one, that was 9/11. So let me know your thoughts below. Thanks for watching.